Welcome to a Toast to Truths. This is where I share the mental, financial, and emotional frustrations of being an entrepreneur. This is season 6, episode 2, Growing Pains in Entrepreneurship. So today's question is, how do you deal with growing pains as you are building a business? I talked about this a little bit in episode 1 about growing pains, and I said I was going to do an episode on it. Look and see that episode 2 is going to be on growing pains. Now, for those of you who have been following this podcast, listening to the episodes, I normally record all the episodes together, so it's easier for me to schedule and get the graphics done and all of that. However, with this season, just because of the way my schedule is set up, I do not have the time to batch, so I'm doing it weekly. Lo and behold, I am doing growing pains. And I really struggled with what I wanted episode 2 to be about for this season, because I have a few topics that I want to talk about this season. This season is going to be 7 episodes. I know I didn't say that in episode 1. So I need to get through these topics, but I just felt like this needed to be said. We are talking about karma and destiny. That's this season's theme. And growing pains. Okay, so let's get back to growing pains. We have growing pains when we're children. We have growing pains when we enter a new relationship or we exit a relationship, when we start a new job, when, there's tension within your family, within your friends. There's growing pains, right? But what about entrepreneurship? What about growing pains in entrepreneurship? Is that a thing? Well, I say there is. And this is probably going to be one of those episodes where it sounds like I'm sharing a lot of frustrations. However, I'm not, because I always give solutions for anything that's stated in this podcast. But what I do want to really focus on is how you feel during these growing pains. Now, a lot of times growing pains to entrepreneurs includes investing money to grow their business. Yeah, that's a growing pain. But what about the emotional and the mental frustrations that we deal with that may or may not cost money? That's something we need to really think about, because I've stated, in previous seasons and previous episodes, just about things in general. I've written a blog post, and you should check it out. Are you the toxic person in the relationship? About how a good friend and I she just stopped talking to me. And so, that is a growing pain in business. I stated last week how another friend wanted to personally attack, and I really had to evaluate why. Why did I receive this out of the blue, this email? And so these growing pains that we deal with in business, how do they mess with us mentally? How do they affect our emotions? Are we able to go through and continue, or do they hinder us? Do they stop us from progressing? Do they prohibit us from making smart, wise, intellectual decisions for our business? So that's what we're really going to talk about in this episode. Here's what I want to first share. I'm going to share a story, and you can be the judge of how you see the story goes. I take ownership in the part that I feel that I played in it. And I want to talk about how it really did affect me as an entrepreneur in business. So I had this friend, and I say had because we haven't talked in probably a year now. And okay, so I had this friend. We met via Twitter. You guys know I love Twitter. Hashtag a toast to truth. I love Twitter. Anyway. And now they have 280 characters. It's on. have to like continue to edit my tweets to make that 140 characters work. So yeah, I'm thrilled. Okay, so back on topic. So I had this friend, we met via Twitter, and I would go to this friend's events, to learn more about business. And then over time, our friendship just developed. We supported each other's business, referred each other, supported each other, helped each other. And then it moved from just us being business associates, business friends, to we were hanging out on personal things, going to events, not business related, talking to each other. I felt I can vent to this person. This person shared things. We've been over each other's homes, different things like that. So as an introvert, I don't really allow people into my space unless I really like you. Like, I have to really like you. And so I really like this person as a friend. Fast forward to probably 2015. Yeah, 2015. That's when I had my mental breakdown. It was March 2015. I had a mental breakdown. And this particular friend was one of two people that I talked to about it, that I stated what was going on. And so, both friends were there. One friend is still a friend. Like, she's still someone I talk to consistently, at least once a week. Actually, we just saw each other the other day at an event that I was hosting. She helped with that event. So anyway, so she was one of two people who knew what I was going through with the mental meltdown. She supported me through the situation. I was really trying to work and get through it. So 2015 was just a very hard year because I was really making my mental health a priority, and I was really making myself a priority to get healthy, to get better, to not be a person that other people did not want to be around. So go to 2016, and we're hanging out, at this get together that she did. And it was, some mutual friends and then people who were her friends. So we were there, we were hanging out. And that was really like the last time we hung out. I don't know what happened as far as what deteriorated our friendship. But I will say that I know, as someone who's gone through a mental meltdown and who supported other people who go through their own, that is a very hard thing for people to really understand and to really want to deal with. From my perspective, is maybe my situation was just too much because I was secluding myself. I was isolating myself. I know those are the same words, people. I do know that. But I just didn't want to go out and do things with people. And it wasn't because I didn't like my group of friends. It was more so I wanted to just not be around people as I was healing. And, there would go weeks, months I didn't talk to people. They would check in on me. I would respond, but I just felt I needed to heal. And going through that, from my perspective, I feel maybe my situation was just too much of a burden, and that was something that the person didn't want to deal with. I can't think of another reason as to why this friend would just completely cut communication off without an explanation. So I felt maybe my personal life was just too much to handle, which is understandable. No one is obligated to deal with your BS. Okay? You are the only one who needs to deal with your BS. That's just point blank, period. So I take responsibility with knowing that even though it was something I was dealing with, I couldn't control, that I was trying to work through, that I should not have put that responsibility or expected that particular friend to also hold the responsibility of my situation. It's really taken me a long time to get over that hurt. You know how people say you have church hurt, like something has happened in church and you decide not to go back and then you go and bash the church. Well, I had friend hurt, but the thing was, I never went and bashed her. To this day, if someone asks specifically, about her, I'll still refer her and still say good things because I don't have any animosity. I don't know and understand why the communication was cut off, other than maybe she didn't want to deal with my situation. Maybe I was too emotional. When people go into different levels of business, sometimes people don't go with them. Maybe I was one of those people who just weren't going to make it to the next level with this friend. And so, you have to accept what it is, what is. So I had friend hurt, and it took a really long time for me, about a year and a half, honestly, to really get over the fact that I may not be friends with this particular person ever again, because I really felt that she was someone I could call a friend. Well, she was a friend. And how did that affect me in business? Honestly, it really did have a profound effect on my business, because a lot of what I did in business, as far as hanging out with certain people, we have mutual friends, so I couldn't talk to them about it. I tried not to go around the same places where I knew she may be there, or mutual friends may be there. It may feel like to mutual friends that, Vernetta is isolating herself from us. What's going on, and this kind of like put a little bit of a space between the group and myself. I did that because I just didn't want to feel uncomfortable in a situation where I didn't know what the entire, problem was or whatever. With that being said, that group, they really supported me. They referred people. They really helped me brainstorm accountability partners, etc. So that really hurt, because then it was like I need to find new people to bounce ideas off of, new people to check me if I'm not doing something correct, new people to really let me talk out something I'm working on to see if it's even viable to continue to the next stage. It not only affected me emotionally, because it felt like I was losing a part of me, she was a dear friend to me, but mentally it took me months to really let that situation go, where it wasn't something I thought about on what did I do wrong, what could I have done better, what should I have done, what did actually happen. It was these constant questions. And if you're in my Facebook group, The Truth Confidant with Vernetta R Freeney, I've talked about this a little bit in the summer journaling series. This particular situation, it did cause me to procrastinate. It caused me to drift into the abyss of daydreaming, thinking about the situation, to the point where I look up and the day is gone and I didn't complete things. So that, you don't complete tasks, you don't finish things, you don't create products, you don't make money. Now that I've really processed what has happened, and for those who are not understanding, some things you just can't get over quickly. It doesn't matter what, guru says, or what, things they have, magical pills or whatever. You should be able to process situations at your pace. Okay. It took me about a year and a half to process this particular situation. Now that I've processed it and I've taken ownership for what I feel I contributed in a negative way to the relationship, the friendship, I am looking at the time that I spent thinking about that. How can I, instead of saying, oh, Vernetta, you wasted time letting this situation get to you, my thing is, how can I use this situation to help other people? So number one, it's a podcast episode. And, number two, I could turn it into a journaling series to really help people understand how to get over hurt when someone cuts you off, walks away, and there's no explanation, you know. And I reached out several times just to, hey, how are you doing? Or, just some type of stay in touch to know. I didn't receive a response from that person. So, that was another blow. Like, what did I really do to cause this type of communication cutoff? With that being said, what I want people to understand is these things happen in business. I don't know, like I said, what I did, I don't know if someone has said something. I don't know if I offended her in some type of way, unintentionally. All I know is that I allowed a year and a half of my life to be dedicated to thinking about this situation. So now that I have processed it, what I plan to do is to use this situation as part of my Detox the BS program that I've created to really help people understand that, that was a burdening stress because it cost me financially in many ways because there were days I couldn't work because I was so devastated that I lost this friendship that I needed to detox. I needed to detox the BS. And that's what BS means as far as my program. BS means burdening stress. Okay? Not the other one. With that being said, okay, so that's one situation where you have these growing pains and you're also growing as a person. So as I was breaking out of the depressive state that I was in and growing into who I am now, that shedding is a very ugly process. And some people just may not want to see it, may not want to deal with it, and may not want to deal with the after effects. And you have to respect them for that. They're not obligated to deal with your BS. So that's one situation. The other situation last week that I mentioned in the podcast episode, and again, I have nothing against this particular person, but I want to use it as an example. When I received the email, and long story short, the email stated that I was being condescending in some remark. My thing is, condescending means I feel that I am better than you. And I do not feel that way about anyone. I'm no better than anyone else, and no one is better than me. That's my personal opinion. So for someone to say that I'm condescending, they really use the wrong choice of words because I do not feel that I am better than anyone. What the person probably should have said is that I did not like your tone because it sounded as if you were saying I didn't do something that I did. In that case, my mind is, if you know you did it, then why are you upset at the comment that I made? It obviously wasn't for you. If you are my friend, then you should allow me to vent my frustrations, and I shouldn't have to say this is for you or this is for someone else. If it's for you, trust me, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. So anyway, long story short with this, I had to really think about how I speak to people. As the Houston African American bloggers, we call it HAB, as we continue to grow, I am going into different boardrooms. I am meeting with different key players in the city. I am doing things to really grow this association. Me being all soft and sweet because you're sensitive is just something I'm just not going to focus on. I'm not going to focus on. So I talked to my therapist about it, and my mom's like, your therapist really needs to do a better job about softening you up. I said no. She says things and I'm just kind of whatever. Here's the thing. So my mother and I talked about the particular comment that was made about me being condescending. Now, how does this relate to growing pains? It really does, because you have to learn how to talk to people. And that's what I'm getting to. Because it was a journey for me. It's still a journey for me. And so my mom was like, you do post things on Facebook that can be kind of shocking. And I said, here's the thing. I do not send friend requests to anyone on Facebook. Ever. People send me friend requests. That means you want to see what I'm posting. You want to know what I'm doing because I do not send friend requests. That's number one. So if you are sending me a friend request, you want to know what I'm saying. So that means I don't need to change what I'm saying or how I'm saying because you want to know what that is. Third thing I told my mother, they have a thing called mute, unfollow, unfriend, or block. You have 4 options. You can use one. So after we talked, she was like, good point. In other words, there's no reason for me to change how I speak to every single person based on their personal situation, based on their personal sensitive feelings, based on how they want to be spoken to. If I'm on my page or if you are tagging me, then I'm going to comment how I comment. You take it how you want to. Now, does that make me a bad person? No. But does it mean that I'm going to have some people who may not want to do business with me? Probably so. Am I willing to take that? Absolutely. You know why I'm willing to take that chance? I'm willing to take that chance because number one, if you know I've been like this since you met me, why would you expect me to treat you in a certain way and then not treat other people the same way you were expecting to be treated? Another reason why I don't feel I need to change my tone is because there are people who like me for me and there are people who don't. I'm not going to take time to change and shift to reach people who don't like me. That's wasting time. As an entrepreneur, you have to figure out if people like you, then you cater to them. You know, do you want to soften up here and there? Yeah, I post jokes and stuff like that on social media. But I'm going to make sure that I continue to nurture the relationship with people who like me. For people who do not like me, I just can't be bothered. And that's something that as an entrepreneur, you have to grow into. You can, what do people call them? Haters or whatever. You just can't give them the time of day. You don't have time, number one, or you shouldn't have enough time to address them. Number two, if you are constantly changing and adapting to how people expect and want you to think, feel, speak, act, etc., when are you going to have time, number one, to be yourself? And number two, to concentrate on your business? You just don't have that time. So if someone doesn't like the way I say something, then what I have to say is not meant for them. That's pretty much it. If you do not like the way someone else says something, then it may not be for you. My mother asked me, you know, has someone ever posted something on Facebook that offended you? And I said, in all honesty, I don't think so. Because number one, if they did, I ignored it. You know, that's an option. Or number two, I just realized, you know, okay, that's how they feel or that's how they think. I don't have to be a part of it. The point I want to make and the point I want people to understand, you cannot expect the delivery of communication to be what you think it should be. When people deliver something, it is coming from their perspective. They may be going through other things when they deliver it. They may feel that they delivered it a different way than you took it. All you can do is either remove the emotion out of the communication and look at the content that was delivered, or don't talk to the person anymore. That's your choice. People cannot communicate 100 different ways to accommodate you because you feel they should speak a certain way. I really don't want to confuse people, but I really want you guys to get this. In business, People don't have time to stop and think, oh my God, is Vernetta's feelings going to be hurt if I say XYZ this way? People don't have time to think about that. A lot of times, if you are wanting information from someone and you receive it, they're just giving it. They're not thinking about how you are going to take it. They're not thinking about your feelings when they're giving the information. A lot of times, if you hear or see or feel emotion in someone's response, they may be going through a totally different emotional situation that has nothing to do with you. You and your situation, they're just responding to. But any type of what you feel is some type of feeling that you don't agree with, it may have nothing to do with you. It just may be residue from another situation. So again, you have to just look at the content and not worry so much about the emotion. Now, I'm not saying that you should ignore people's behavior. Like if they're nasty towards you, that's different. Like I don't go around disrespecting people. I don't go around calling people out of their names. I'm going to talk about the situation and the situation, period. I'm not going to, call you all kind of names that are inappropriate. If people are doing that, then yeah, you definitely need to cut them off because they're just not someone you should want to do business with. They have not grown as a person and they will probably pull you down if you continue to do business with them. And as an entrepreneur, you have to figure out who are people that I need around me and who are people that I realize I just cannot do business with anymore. Okay, so we're going to stop and take a sip, and then we will come back. Okay, so who doesn't love shopping at Target? I know I do. I am a Target affiliate, and if you are signed up for my journal entries, that's my newsletter, I share exclusive deals, offers, and specials for Target.com. So make sure you go to VernettaRFreeney.com and sign up so that you can get your exclusive Target deals, specials, and offers in your inbox. Also, if you are going through a situation where you need to go from a stressful time in your life to creating a peaceful solution for that, I highly encourage you to get the Detox the BS journal. It is a guided journal. It is a stress management tool to help you go from stressful situation to peaceful solution. Go to VernettaRFreeney.com and learn more about the journal. Okay, we are back. And I was talking before the break about communication and tone and realizing who should be in your space and who shouldn't. When you are an entrepreneur, there are going to be growing pains. The first part I talked about, two different friends and how situations have gone. And, those could really be situations that truly affect you. They have some type of emotional or mental effect that can kind of stop you on your track. You have to kind of look at the situation and think things through. However, there are other types of growing pains as an entrepreneur. Now, when I started in 2011, I just had a blog, but I did start the blog to make money. Yes, I am one of those people who started blogging to make money. I did not start blogging because I had some woohoo type of feeling that I wanted to share with the world, and it just morphed into a way that I got paid. No, I went to the Houston Public Library. I had the librarians help me find every book about social media and blogging. I read them and I tried to really understand what this industry was. Because at the time, it wasn't really an industry per se. Not what it is now. But I knew that it was going to be that way. Because I started blogging in 2009. And that was really just a place for me to vent. It was just really a place for me to kind of share my frustration with the teaching job that I had. And people did love my blog post because, baby, I went into it on there. Kind of like what Tammy Roman says, get into it. Like, if you read that blog, you know I really let things go or said things about the intricacies of public school teaching and, defending your students. But fast forward to 2011, I started a new blog and I wanted to go into this industry, blogging industry, and I wanted to understand it because I wanted it to be a business. So yes, I went into blogging to make money, and I've made money ever since 2011. Like, I started getting paid a month after I launched that particular blog, and I've since sold that blog. But anyway, with that being said, over the course of the 6 years that I've looked into getting into the blogging industry, there have been things that I've had to grow out of and things I've had to grow into. So let's start with what I had to grow out of. I had to grow out of being overly sensitive. People say as a Cancer, I'm just a sensitive soul or whatever. I really had to grow out of taking everything personal. I had to grow out of putting my feelings above what needed to be done. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters are results. This is a business. Results means money for me or XYZ for the clients that I'm working with. So I had to get out of my feelings. I had to get over myself. And I had to understand that in business, at the end of the day, I treat people with respect, but I need to deliver results. And I can't get mad if someone doesn't say or do something the way I think they should do. I talked about that before the break, okay? Another thing I had to grow out of when it comes to business is playing small. I talked about that in episode 1. In order to really grow a business, in order to really bring in a substantial amount of money, you have to grow out of thinking small, playing small. When I created Fusion Tour, that's when more money came in, because Fusion Tour wasn't just some small event. It was an award-winning national tour. I even had, I pitched and got investment money from investors in Austin, Texas, to invest in this tour. What I did was I had to grow out of thinking small. I had to grow out of just trying to be a local blogger. I had to grow out of just thinking, oh, if I stay online and I do this, then, and I just keep doing it, then, and no. If I wanted to make money, I had to grow out of thinking small. Another thing that I had to grow out of doing is taking advice from people who knew nothing about blogging. I'm not even talking about business. Everybody thinks they're a business consultant. I mean, you read a Gary Vaynerchuk book and you think you know everything there is to know about marketing and branding. But that's not the case. And when it comes to blogging, totally different beast. Like, I study my craft. I study my industry. When I'm speaking based on experience. I'm speaking based on things that I have done. I'm speaking based on practices that I am following. I did not just read a book and then go and regurgitate it. That's not what I'm doing. And that's what you shouldn't do either. You should actually put stuff into practice. So when people want to try to tell me about blogging and they've never even read a blog, I had to grow out of just, tuning them out. Like, there's no reason for me to entertain a conversation. Because number one, I'm going to be annoyed and they're going to see and they're going to know immediately, because I don't have this capacity to hide how I feel when I'm annoyed. I may need to work on that. But at this point, I think it works best for me to make sure that people know when I'm annoyed, that they can just stop speaking, and then we can go our other ways and we can see each other later. But that particular conversation is just not going to continue forward. I had to grow out of not understanding that just because I support other people, that they will support me in return. I used to get so mad blasting people on Facebook. Yeah, I used to do that. Blasting people on Facebook because I'm like, I go and I support you and I pay for this and I attend your events and blah, blah, blah. And you can't even do the same for me. I had to grow out of that. Why? Because number one, I didn't have to do that for them. And you don't have to do that for other people. Two, I had to realize that what I do is not for everybody. So I needed to go and find the people that liked or appreciate what it is that I do. Just because I supported other people does not mean what I write about, the events I host, the products I create, the services I offer, or something that they are going to want themselves. So I had to grow out of that. I had to grow out of thinking that because I support you, you should support me. Now I can go on and on and on about growing out of things, but let's move to growing in. I had to grow into owning the authority of being a leader. Yeah, the authority of being a leader. It is scary to have other people depend on you, to have other people follow you, to have other people listen to what you say and act upon that. I had to grow into owning that authority. I had to be comfortable knowing that I do know enough stuff about my industry to lead HAB. I do know enough stuff about blogging to have people listen to me. I do know enough about dealing with depression, dealing with stress, to educate people on how to detox the BS in their life, to be a mental health advocate. I had to own that authority. That's something I had to grow into, and it was scary. It took years for me to get to this point. It was something that I didn't think I was qualified for due to my age, because when I took over HAB, I was like 30. How old was I? 30. So here I am, 30 years old, creating the first blog association of its kind in this country. No blueprint, nowhere online I could find for information. Like, I'm literally creating something. But I had to grow into the authority of the leadership that I have the knowledge, I have the wherewithal, I have what I need to take this organization to where it belongs. And we are doing that now. It took a minute for me to own it. It took a minute for me to feel comfortable and confident in myself, but I am there. So that is one thing I had to grow into. Another thing that I had to grow into is being comfortable being uncomfortable. And I know that's a cliche thing that people say, and I've shared cliche things, but I've gone and explained from my perspective what they mean. So growing into being comfortable when you're uncomfortable. As an introvert, and FYI, people, introvert does not mean I'm shy. I am nowhere near shy. Introvert means I don't like being around large groups of people. This is my introvertness. Okay, there's lots of different definitions. Please understand, all introverts are not the same. I don't like large groups of people. I like more intimate settings. I prefer more one-on-one. I do not prefer going to large conferences, even though I went to Podcast Movement with like thousands of people. I had a great time. I will talk about Podcast Movement in this season, but my form of introvertness is if I'm spending a lot of time with other people, I'm going to want to spend at least 1 or 2 days isolated, completely alone, so that I can recharge and feel refreshed. Okay? People drain me. I feel their energy. They want to talk to me, and it's just very draining for me. So if I'm talking or I'm doing a lot of things where I'm meeting a lot of people, and then being a teacher, that's something all in and of itself. With that being said, as an introvert, I always have to go and recharge. My thing is, I had to grow into owning who I am, owning Vernetta, loving Vernetta, And once I started doing that, things in business changed. The growth of business has changed financially in a more positive direction. Growth in business has changed where I no longer allow my emotions to dictate how things go or dictate my decisions. When I grew into owning who I am, it also helped me shed things in business that no longer needed to be there. Like, we have these services and these products, and we do these events, and we do all these things. These consultants and coaches are doing these funnels and all of these things because that's what other people say, but we've never taken the time to really look and evaluate how our business works, what works best for our customers, what works best with our strengths. Once I started to shed all of this other stuff that wasn't working, but I was told to do, I realized how much money I was losing doing things because someone else said to do them. So I learned a financial lesson. And once I learned who I am, I understood more about the business that I'm running, not only with PAB, but with the Truth Confidant. I understand how to market. I understand who my target audience is. I understand how to reach them. But I had to know who I am. I had to own who I am in order for me to be able to really clearly see how each of these entities would operate. So that's something I had to grow into. Another thing that I had to grow into when it comes to being an entrepreneur is I really needed to speak up about money. Now, I've had no problem speaking up about money because if you ask me to do something, I'm like, how much you paying? Like, we need to talk about this. I'm going to bring up my mother again. She taught me that lesson. And I'm going to share this story with you guys because I really want people who are struggling with this to understand this is something you have to grow into, especially if you are an entrepreneur. So my mother worked at this charter school. Actually, my mom worked at like the very first charter school in the state of Texas in like the 1990s. So anyway, she was working at this charter school, and it was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And they sent this email or something to all the teachers that they couldn't pay, that the teachers weren't going to get their payment. All I know is I was like a freshman in college, I believe. My mom asked me to get in the car with her. We drove from Fort Worth because she was teaching in Fort Worth. We drove to Dallas to the main campus, the headquarters of the charter school. And she walked in there and she looked them dead in their face and said, I don't know what this email is about. Now I'm paraphrasing. I don't know what this email is about, but I'm going to get paid today. Now, my mom does not ever raise her voice. She does not cuss at people. She does not get belligerent. She is very calm, cool, collected. But when she goes off on you, you listen and you respond accordingly. Okay? I am her child. Please trust and know. You listen and you respond accordingly. They told her when we were there, oh, we can't pay you. We don't have any money. My mom said, you have money and I'm not leaving until I get it. She and I sat down. Maybe an hour and a half went by. I said, I'm hungry. She said, no, you're not. I said, no, I'm not. We continued to sit there. They kept coming out to see if we left. She looked straight at them. They looked straight at her. By the end of that business day, my mom had her entire paycheck for 2 months in cash. Did not have to cuss. Did not have to get belligerent. Did not have to act a fool. She told me that if you do the work, you get paid. There's nothing else to know about that. You do the work, you get paid. I had to grow into that as an entrepreneur. I had to grow into making that part of the conversation at the beginning. What are you expecting me to do? We need to talk about a budget. And budget is relative. Budget does not mean I have a set price and it's not flexible. We're going to negotiate, but I'm still going to get paid. You came to me to work with me, which means you see value in what I do. You know I can do whatever it is you're looking for. So we need to talk about how I'm going to get paid. That's something a lot of entrepreneurs, especially women, need to grow into. You need to grow into getting comfortable talking about money. Because if you do not talk about money, you do not get paid. You do not get paid, your business suffers. Your business suffers, you eventually have to close it. Because why keep a business that you're putting money into and you're not getting money from it? That story I share with people. I use it as an example. You do not have to get loud, crazy, ignorant to get paid, but you need to stand firm and you need to be comfortable knowing that they came to you, so they should pay you. And that's really more so for like coaches and consultants and people who do service type of work where you're invoicing, that type of thing. Like if you sell a product, people got to pay to get the product. That's different. But if you're doing something more of intangible type of work, like coaching, consulting, speaking, those types of things, then you definitely need to grow into getting comfortable talking about money. Now, if they can't pay you money, then you need to figure out something else they can give you in return. Maybe they can record it and you get that video edited and that's a sizzle reel for you or something. You just have to not just give, because women are supposedly nurturers and we're givers and we help other people. Don't always give. And it's not a bad thing to expect something in return, especially in business. If you're giving your time, the expectation of you reaping some type of benefit for your time, it should not be a far-fetched idea. It shouldn't be. And yet a lot of people see it that way. Those are some of what I had to grow out of and what I had to grow into type of situations. At the beginning, I talked about two situations with friends and how one of them I did allow to affect my business. The other one, I really had to kind of think about it and realize, okay, I was not condescending. However, I'm not going to go and respond to this person by attacking them and calling them names. That's just not what I'm going to do. That's just not something personally I feel is a good thing. I'm not team petty in a sense. Now, according to a lot of people, I can throw very educated shade. But again, I don't curse at you and I'm not going to call you out of your name. But I will let you know what's what. And I will define what's what so you understand what's what. And then we move on. Or, I move on and I don't know what happens to you. But, but at the end of the day, there are growing pains as an entrepreneur. And we have to know how to deal with them. And we have to deal with them because if we don't deal with them, they can have a mental, financial, or emotional consequence to our business. So growing pains, as uncomfortable as they are something we definitely do have to deal with. All right, so I'm getting ready for the final toast. Okay, so today's final toast is, yes, growing pains happen in entrepreneurship. And what we have to realize is that it's part of life. Just like we have growing pains in middle school, high school, relationships, anything of that nature, we have growing pains in entrepreneurship, and we have to embrace them. We have to look at them, reflect on them, learn from them, and move forward. The key thing with the growing pain, especially in entrepreneurship, is to not let them keep you stuck. To see them, to learn from them, to reflect on them, and then take that pain to help propel you in a more forward movement so your business continues to grow and it leads to profitability. I'm a very key advocate for profitability. Profitability means you have money after you have paid your expenses, because revenue is great, but if your expenses outweigh your revenue, you don't have profit. So growing pains are things that can prohibit your profitability. And we have to look at that growing pain as a way for us to take it as a lesson, get out of our feelings, and move forward. All right, y'all. This has been a toast to truth with me, Vernetta R Freeney, talking about growing pains in entrepreneurship and the consequences I've encountered. Thank you for listening to episode 2 of season 6, and I hope to see you, or i.e. you listen in next week.